Hello everybody. I am Robert Purchase, a journalist from the UK. I work for Eurogamer. And this is obviously Marek Tymiński, CEO of CI Games. Now, this is a kind of surprise session for me because Marek was going to do just a normal presentation today, but instead he asked if I would come on stage with him and ask him questions as if I was interviewing him, because he feels like there's a lot of questions to answer, and he felt it would be, you guys would appreciate him doing that, rather than giving you a presentation if he answered the questions that hopefully you guys want to hear. So, Marek?
Yeah?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Let's begin. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to Sniper Ghost Warrior, because for CI Games, that's where your journey into AAA development, I guess, doesn't begin, but that's where it really starts to accelerate, if you like. That's where the big success kind of comes from. So let's talk a bit about development of that game. Who came up with it? How long did it take to make? Was the idea to get it out quickly? Because it didn't review very well. I mean, I looked up on our site, and you know the score was low, but the game was a success. So yeah, let's talk a bit about development. What was the idea behind the game, and what did you think? How did you think it would do?
Right. So, Sniper Ghost Warrior is a very interesting case, starting from where it is coming from. So, we started in 2002, and we started from the budget video game development and publishing. And we started like that because we wanted to stay independent from very early days. We didn't want to work for a major publisher, but we wanted to develop our own ideas in a budget segment. And simply, the budget segment came from the reason for the budget segment that we started the company is simply that we didn't have more money to develop a full-price AAA game at that time. So we decided to stay independent, and we started from the PC game development. And over the years, we also published external developed products, European-wide, in Eastern Europe or Poland. So we had a lot of different products, different titles. And one of them, it was once that we acquired the rights for Sniper Path of Vengeance. That was the old sniping game. We required the rights for the PC. And the game was already released in Western Europe or in the US. So we required the rights for the budget release of that game for German-speaking countries. The license, that was a flat fee license and kind of like occasion. So we stepped in, and it was relatively very cheap at the time. And in fact, we sold more than 200,000 units of that game in German-speaking countries alone. So that made us thinking that, wow, I mean, sniping subgenre, I would say, is a great place to be, because we sold so many copies just in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland that we definitely should think about probably making our own sniping game. And the first own product about sniping was in fact Sniper Art of Victory.
Okay.
And that was also a budget game that we sold so far around 500,000 units. So we saw that was successful, so we want to stick what worked for us, and we decided to develop Sniper Ghost Warrior 1. And that was in fact the first bigger release from us.
So how many people were you at this point? I mean, how big was your development team?
I can't remember exactly how big the team was who was responsible for Sniper Ghost Warrior 1, but I think it was around 40, 50 people at the time.
Okay. And you'd made a game, so you kind of knew what you were doing.
Excuse me?
And you'd made a game before, you've made games before, so you knew what you were doing. It wasn't...
Of course. We made a number of first-person shooters, including Terrorist Takedown, Battle Strike, so games that did also very well for us, but not as great as sniping games.
Okay.
And this team was responsible for Sniper Ghost Warrior 1. And obviously the budget for the game, for the release of PC and Xbox 360, was below 1 million US. So it was just close to 1 million US.
Wow.
And and obviously, when you have a budget like that, and you decide, okay, I mean, you either go to be very niche product and maybe more ambitious in terms of the approach, or you want to go for the mainstream and you want to grab the attention of all the guys who play Call of Duty. So we decided for the second. But obviously, when you decide for the second and your budget is just 1 million US, you probably won't be able to make the best game in the world. And but we made it. We made Sniper Ghost Warrior 1 with that things in mind. And so far, we sold close to 3.5 million units.
Wow. What did you think when the reviews came in? Because, you know, regardless of how big the budget and how much you thought you could achieve, it must be quite hard reading reviews which are quite hard on your game. Did that, I don't know, did you feel sad? Did you feel upset?
Definitely that, you know, it's always not easy, right? And, you know, to tell you the truth, we also had some very positive reviews. But
yeah.
As you said, the average was mediocre, I would say, and some were very, very hard on us. And that's always difficult for the team to be in a situation when they work, you know, for whatever, 2 years on the game, and at the end of the day, the reviews are really not where they would like to have it. But what made, you know, everyone happy was the commercial success, and we knew it's not just coming by any sort of a luck, but we knew a lot of people who bought that game were really happy playing that game. And we knew that we had the data on that. And also that data was used for us, you know, analyzed by us when we were thinking about Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. That came later.
Okay, so, I mean, did you expect that it would sell anything like it did? Because 3.5 million sales is, you know, that's good by anyone's standards. You know, EA, you know, whoever. That's a lot of sales. Did you have any idea that it would do that?
No, we were definitely, you know, expecting a very good sales, just because we had these 2 other sniping games, and we also saw other sniping games performing very well in the past, including Marine Sharpshooter in the US by Groove Games. So we were expecting, you know, a good sales, but we didn't expect 3.5 million units, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That was beyond our expectations.
So the money comes in, you've got a popular game. Obviously, at that point, I expect you're thinking, right, you know, let's do a sequel. So what happens next? What happens after you finish Sniper Ghost Warrior? Is it an easy decision, right, let's make a sequel, let's pump the money back in, let's make this like the big deal? Is that what happens next?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is that, but in fact, it's a difficult decision what you do when you have a lot of money coming in, right? And definitely, we have been public company since 2007, so Sniper Ghost Warrior 1 was released in 2010, so we had investors, and we felt very responsible for them, and we wanted to bring the company value and let them, you know, I mean, that's the expectations when you're a public company. So having all that money, we said, okay, we have to go for Sniper Ghost Warrior 2, because that was always like, when you know that something is working, you stick to that. And so we did that, and that was a good decision. Not everything went as we expected, and obviously we had certain problems with Sniper Ghost Warrior 2.
Can you talk a bit about those problems? Because, I mean, the game was at first supposed to come out in 2011, then 2012, and then finally 2013. So what problems did you have along the way?
We changed the technology. Sniper Ghost Warrior 1 was running on a different technology than Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. So we changed the technology, and I think we were too optimistic about how much time we need to make that new technology working for us, and also we were too optimistic when the particular parts of that technology delivered to us. So that was a major mistake we made, and I think because of that, and not only because of that, but that was one of the key reasons, we unfortunately had to delay the production of that game number of times and postpone the release number of times, which made the game to be more expensive than we expected at the beginning, and also grew expectations from the game to a much bigger degree than we were ever communicated.
Yeah.
Ever communicated to the gamers, to the media, and also to the investors. So up to the point that when we said we will be launching probably 800,000 units, and that was a few weeks before the launch. And at the launch, we said we shipped 1 million. And that's supposed to be a good news, but it turned to be not so good. Because, in fact, the expectations on the investment community was bigger than that.
Okay. So, at the same time, roughly, while you're making Sniper Ghost Warrior 2, you also start making a game called Alien Rage and Dogfight 1942, I think it is. Is that right? That's
right, yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, we wanted to deliver the value to the investors, and we had a lot of meetings, and we still have a lot of meetings with funds, with investors, and they were asking us, okay, you guys made Sniper Ghost Warrior 1 to be so successful, and can you invest into more franchises? Do you think about any new projects that you can expand the company like that? And I think the biggest mistake, what I personally made, was to listen to them. To be honest, because I mean, and that's gone, right? I really personally wanted to deliver the value, and I wanted to kind of like meet their expectations. So we started to invest into more projects than we probably were able to run at the time. Not thinking about that when we started that, but from the time perspective, we were not ready as an organization in terms of people we had and size of the team. Maybe size was right, but maybe the competence across the entire organization to go into so many projects. But we did that. We thought that that was the right thing to do. And with some of them, we didn't really bring enough sales to cover their costs. Yeah. So they failed from that perspective. And I think the lesson from that is that, I mean, at least looking into me, we know our business very, very well. And we made a lot of mistakes. But we know our business, and we know we have to stay focused on what we can really make successful. And at this moment, we are not really thinking about bringing too many new IPs. And in fact, we are just working on Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 and Lords of the Fallen 2. And there are no plans right now for us to get into any new big IP. We want to be focused on that. But at the same time, which obviously is a little bit funny, investors are sharing that vision. They also don't want us to get into too many new IPs.
So, Alien Rage and Dogfight, did they have anything to do with the delays for Sniper Ghost Warrior? Did they have a part to play in that as well, because you were just doing too much stuff?
Can you say that again, sorry?
Yeah, Alien Rage and Dogfight, did they have something to do with the delays to Sniper Ghost Warrior 2?
No, I don't think that it made any okay. Because there were separate teams working on those games and separate team working on Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. And I think that it was independent.
Okay, so Sniper Ghost Warrior 2 comes out, and it's much more favorably received than Sniper Ghost Warrior 1. It's a better realization, it's a bigger game. It comes out, and how did it do from your perspective? Did it do as well as you'd hoped?
It did very well. It didn't do as many units as we thought it could. And the reasons are, first of all, we postponed the game so many times that we came to the situation when there was already a shift in consoles, like from the old generation to the new generation, and the interest in the old generation software was dropping. And I mean, you know that a lot of games were in the same situation, that the sales at that part, that was 2013, early 2013, the sales in early 2013 of many games were below what was expected. And I think a couple of different things came together, so we still were very successful. We sold more than 2 million units, which is great, I think. But being earlier on the marketplace, I think we could have done more.
Okay. And it's around this time that you started working on Lords of the Fallen?
Yeah, we started to work on Lords of the Fallen in 2011. So the game, we developed that game over 3 years together with partners, together with Deck 13, and we also work with a lot of different partners in Asia, some great guys in the UK, especially on the concepts. So that was really, truly the first international development for us, where really huge part was outside of CI games. So we had our internal team. We were responsible and keeping the vision and responsible for many critical decisions on the project itself. And obviously, we were also responsible as a publisher, so we're responsible for the marketing, all that stuff. But, you know, a lot of real production was outsourced. Like in a certain moment of time in China, we had more than 100 artists working on Lords of the Fallen.
Okay.
So what you see right now from Lords of the Fallen, a lot of that was created in China. And what I can say is it's a great experience, and that we learned a lot, what went well, what went really not so well, and we will be keeping that model for the future, including Sniper Ghost Warrior 3.
Yeah. What didn't go so well? What are the lessons you learned from that? Because it sounds quite hard to manage to me, having to manage, you know, your team in Warsaw, then also Deck 13 in Frankfurt, I think it is.
Yeah.
And then, you know, people in China as well. And that sounds complicated to me.
Yeah, I think that and again, I mean, we started in 2011, so we've been thinking when we started that we should still go for the old generation. So, and that was not the right decision from the time perspective, because the old generation started to lose the attention so much faster than anyone in the industry expected. And I think out of that wrong decision at the very early days, the very good decision came that we changed in the early stage of the project, we changed the decision, and we decided to bring the game to the new generation, so current generation, instead of going for the old one. And I think that was a great decision from the time perspective. Okay. So very happy about that.
And with Lords of the Fallen 2, you're not working with Deck 13 again, or you are working with Deck 13?
We are not working with Deck 13 right now. We are starting the project. We start from the concepting, but we definitely will be working with a lot of partners. That part of those partners definitely will be the same guys that we have been working previously. I mean, like the guys at Purchese in China, they did an excellent job for all the art, a lot of art that you see in the game, and currently they work on Sniper Ghost Warrior 3.
Yeah.
We built Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 also with these guys, and probably they will be the ones, you know, very probably they will be the ones working on Lords 2, but I can't tell you all the companies right now, but we're speaking to them, we're thinking about what's the best for the project and taking all the lessons from Lords of the Fallen 1 to make, first of all, much better game, and second, to make it more efficient from the production perspective.
Yeah. And when can people expect to see more of Lords of the Fallen, and maybe even to play Lords of the Fallen? When can people expect that? Lords of the Fallen 2, I should say.
We plan to release the game in 2017.
Okay.
But also what we learned, that not to say about the release date too early, that's for sure, that's a big lesson. And we will be only announcing the release date of each particular game when we'll be close enough and we'll be sure that the game will be on time.
Okay.
So it's just vague. We can only say it's 2017, but without any more specific.
Okay. So to get an idea just of the size of CI games now, how many people are CI games in Warsaw? Well, overall.
Overall, I mean, we have a studio in Warsaw and we have studio in Rzeszów. And in total, in development side, I think we probably are like 70, 80 people. We also have, on top of that, we also have the sales, marketing, finance, and all that stuff, which obviously is very important and critical to our company's success.
Yeah.
And in terms of the sales, the last year we had around 110 million Polish zloty in sales, in revenue. So it's probably like 28 million euro.
How well did Lords of the Fallen sell, incidentally? I didn't ask you.
It's doing fine. We are over 900,000 units, not yet with 1 million, but we are approaching that. And definitely it's a good start for the new IP. It's a good start, so definitely we can say that Lords of the Fallen 1 proved that the IP makes sense to further invest into that.
Yeah.
And the decision is already made.
Yeah. So your rise from Sniper Ghost Warrior from 2010 really to 2015, that's a big rise. And like you say, now you are in the business of making blockbuster games, AAA games. That's where you see yourselves. But it's a fast rise, but obviously it's never easy. And along the way, companies' reputations can either get better, get worse. How do you feel about your company's reputation? What do you think people say about you, and is that fair?
I think that, especially in the West, in the industry, we have a very good reputation. Based on Sniper Ghost Warrior 1, we had a lot of positive stories and a lot of respect from Western publishers, including the large publishers, because that sort of success just happens so rarely that the independent, small to mid-sized publisher / developer is coming up and having a huge global success. So I think we're doing very well from the perspective of the industry, and I think we had always kind of like in Poland was kind of like things were good and some things were not, right? It's just it is like it is, right? But I think we're working hard internally, and we made a lot of things better to get the best reputation that the game developer can have. And I think we will be working on that for sure with everything what we are doing right now, to our staff and to projects that we are running, like Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. I think from the development perspective, the critical point is a motivation factor is the project. What project you are working on makes you really willing to do that. We always had a very good reputation for keeping our promises, making sure that everyone is paid on time and stuff like that. In the times that was not the standard in Poland. But none of the rest, I mean, the projects, when we were into this budget segment, that was not really the top you can expect being a game developer.
Yeah.
And this is what we are providing right now. And Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 is a full price, AAA production. It's much bigger than Sniper 2, and it has most of the things, or all the things you would like to say, that people are expecting from such a game to make a new coming to and revolutionizing that subgenre.
Yeah, and also there was a mention of there have been some layoffs along the way for the company. Can you talk about those and what the reasons were for those?
Right, of course. I mean, it's also kind of like you are as strong as and to a point to what's the budget you have at your account, right? So a lot of layoffs that we had. I mean, some of the layoffs what we had over the 12, 14 years of the company history, most of them came from the fact that we were very stretched in terms of our budget, and we had to cut costs in order to survive. That's the reason. That was part of that. Sometimes we also had a case that when we decided that we really want to go for developing the games with external partners that work well for us on Lords of the Fallen, we decided that we had to make our studio more lean. And in fact, we lost some people even last year, but to a lot of them we offered to relocate to Warsaw. But it's not so easy to relocate, and as we see now, as it could be, for example, in the States. So a lot of people decided to stay in their hometowns. We had a studio in Bydgoszcz, and we had a studio before in Katowice. So most of those people were not willing to relocate, and they stayed locally. But and that was the reason, just changing the business model. But I think that we have a lot of great people in our organization, and we have a lot of people who are working with me, with the company, for many, many years. We have people who've been with us for 10, 12 years, 8 years, who are doing really great, and they are, at least from my perspective, they are pillars of the organization.
Yeah. And how do you feel personally, because this is a company that you've built up, from the very beginning, and how do you feel about your role in the company going forwards? Do you feel tempted to get involved in development, or do you stand back and say, right, now's the time that other people do this, I'm not going to get involved?
I think that it's always a tough question to answer, because you feel responsible in front of everyone as a CEO and the co-founder, in front of investors, in front of the guys that working for you, so your employees, in front of the partners, because at the end of the day, it's you to be blamed for, right?
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And I was always thinking about running the business and being the CEO, but not being kind of like a suit, you would say, but being a guy who is open and having a short and close relation with people from different teams. But on one side, giving a lot of responsibilities and delegating the tasks, but also being able to jump into the conversation about any detail, maybe except the bookkeeping, but any detail about the production for sure, at any given moment when I feel my need is my help is needed, and that happens from time to time. But I'm always telling my guys, I'm not here to speak about any particular feedback I may have for you today, in order that I'm taking now control about part of the creative, because that's not my game, that's your game, and I can help to shape the vision. I can give you my feedback, and using all my experience, since I, started to play games, 30 years ago, but I'm not taking your responsibility away. Don't think like that, because people are sometimes too willing to, in situations where it's tough, we work hard on the project, to give this responsibility away. I'm not taking that. So I only provide the feedback and helping to shape the vision from the production perspective. And I think the same goes to other activities like sales, marketing. We have a very strong team, so these guys are good on their own. We have a very strong guy in the US who is now running the sales in the US, Canada, and Latin America. We have a very strong guy who is running publishing in Europe-wise, and all this relations with Sony, Microsoft. So I'm not getting involved. I'm mostly spending my time staying inside the organization and speaking internally to people, but not going out and taking their jobs away.
Yeah. Okay, we'll open up for some questions in a moment, so get thinking right now. But before we do that, if you could share with all these people here, some people are maybe looking to have businesses like yours. If you could share one piece of advice with them, maybe the biggest lesson you had to learn along your career, what would your advice to them be?
Well, there are a couple of, because, if you know CI games, the better you know CI games, the more you know that we made a lot of mistakes and a lot of lessons from that. But I think, I think that decisions and I was always like that. I always had people around me who I was consulting. I was making decisions, but I was always trying to find guys who are good on certain topics and probably better than me, to speak to them, to discuss, and to have their thinking before I make a decision. So I am able to take responsibility for every decision I make, and I do that. But I'm very rarely making decision on my own without having other people around me and speaking about that. And the same goes to people, right? Whatever we want to, get someone, promoted or whatever, it always takes some thinking through people who are around. So I think it's good, to get this kind of a sense and to learn how to use others around you as your best advisors, and how to understand who have each skill that you can listen to and you can build some thoughts on. And I started like that when I was 20. I always had advisors who were older than me, from the guys who were in that industry. Most of these guys were outside of Poland. And I kind of learned from that moment to listen to others who are probably smarter or knowing some more stuff than you. And I think that's a big thing.
Okay. All right. If anyone's got some questions, we have a microphone here. I think this gentleman here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how come that City Interactive, who was the biggest Polish developer, now goes like we are the indie developer, indie-sized developer, we are hiring people.
Can you say again? I didn't get it fully. I mean, how?
I think. Are you asking if why CI Games used to be big and now it's smaller?
I mean, right. I mean, we always, I mean, indie. When we started our company, I think the term indie wasn't so known. And we have been always thinking like the indie, but and we grew to a bigger size than that.
Well, seriously, you were the biggest developer in Poland. You were like 300 people in 4 branches in Rzeszów, in Krakow, other stuff.
Okay, that you mean, because we in fact we had 200 people working for us. I think 200 is the number working for us at the peak in terms of people working for us, and now we are just over 100. But I don't think we are smaller. I think we are bigger than we've been. We are more competent. We are a better company, but we are a different company because it's simply from the model that we took. We work more with partners. So, for us it makes more sense because, I mean, we see Poland is a great place, but the access to talent is limited. There are not so many guys. It's not easy to recruit people, right? And in some countries, you have large video game developers, almost like factories, who can serve your needs. And we think more about creating these games and having some key core competences in the organization and then giving other people that to help us on. But from the numbers perspective, like their sales, revenue, potential growth and profits, we are bigger than we used to be.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? This guy here with the funky Mario t-shirt.
Yes, I would like to ask you about the Nuvo DRM that was applied to Lords of the Fallen. What is your personal opinion about this? On the one side, the Lords of the Fallen wasn't tracked, but the people who bought the game, they had some technical problems with the hardware, and this topic was described on the forums.
Right. So.
And another question about releasing date. Are you prepared or are you ready to change the release date if the game will be not ready? Because Lords of the Fallen wasn't ready on the release date, and the release date of it was, crap.
Right. So in terms of Lords of the Fallen, to be specific, most of the problems some people had, they were on PC. To be specific, and the game was released on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Also, and we thought that we would be able to, with the team, and technically, Deck 13 was responsible for for a lot of technical stuff. It was their engine, right? So once we have been talking to them a number of times, we felt like we would have the game that will be polished from the from some of the things that occurred to have the game to have, and some things were more difficult than them and us expected at the time. So so that caused that PC PC problem, I would say, and we already did a lot to make it better, obviously, and we feel responsible for delivering the top quality product in terms of also bug free. And to answer your second question, I definitely want to make sure that the next game we will be coming up with, so Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, will be polished before it's out. And here it's probably easier because we control the process to a much bigger degree. I mean, it's our internal team responsible for the technical aspects. But I can tell you, we will be having a game that will be polished, and then only the game will be released.
Can I just ask, before someone else jumps in, why is it that you're not working with Deck 13 again? Does it have anything to do with, I don't know, did the relationship break down or something? Or
yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's confidential. We just, we have spoken about certain things that we could probably do together after the release of Lords of the Fallen 1, but at the end of the day, I think we came to the conclusion, maybe both sides, that won't happen, right? It won't happen, and as far as I know, they have another project, and wish them luck with another project. But we have very clear thinking on how we want to make Lords of the Fallen 2, and I think we have a very good idea.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Yep. It's like deja vu.
A question about Lords of the Fallen mobile. Why free to play and why mobile?
Why mobile?
Why mobile and why free to play?
Mobile is obvious because Lords of the Fallen is recognized IP, and it just fits so well to the game that we have in mind, what we want to make for mobiles, because it won't be the same game like Lords of the Fallen is on the consoles. So it's just a perfect match from our perspective. And obviously, mobile industry is very much less predictable than the big console industry. But that was kind of like no-brainer for us. And free-to-play, it's just that that's a major trend. And we are spending significantly on iOS, on Lords of the Fallen iOS, Android, and want to increase our chances to make proper revenue out of that. And I think going free to play just does that.
Fantastic. Any more questions? No, doesn't look like it. All right, then, all that's left to say is thank you from me, and thank you to Marek Tymiński for answering my questions.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.